Before we dive into this incredible tale of unexpected turns, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Your support helps us bring more captivating stories to life. The downpour was a relentless drumbeat against the penthouse windows, each drop a tiny hammer blow against Amelia's already fractured composure. "No, no, no!" she screamed, her voice a raw rasp against the storm's fury, pounding on the reinforced glass door of her luxury London apartment. "Mr. Davies, are you in there?" The December rain, a cruel torrent over the city, plastered her designer trench coat to her trembling body as she fumbled desperately with her access card. The gleaming Canary Wharf skyscraper loomed above her, a mocking titan of glass and steel, its warm lobby lights a cruel taunt through the blurry pane. The concierge, predictably, was nowhere to be found. "Damn it all," she cursed, frantically jabbing at her dead smartphone. £3,000 worth of tech, and I can't even open my own front door. Her Louboutin heels slipped precariously on the slick pavement. At 35, Amelia Vance had built a financial empire from nothing. Yet at this moment, she felt utterly lost. A child abandoned in the storm. Do you ever feel completely overwhelmed, even when you thought you had everything under control? Share your thoughts in the comments below. "Need a hand, miss?" The voice startled her, making her spin around. A tall man, perhaps 37, stood there, his jeans splattered with paint, a small girl in a bright red coat clutching his hand. He had a neatly trimmed beard and kind eyes that seemed out of place with his work clothes. "My card isn't working," Amelia explained, her posh accent more pronounced with nerves. "And my phone's dead." The little girl tugged on the man's sleeve. "Daddy, she's all wet," she whispered, loud enough for Amelia to hear. "We can't just leave her out here on Christmas Eve." The man, Mark, studied Amelia. His gaze swept over her expensive coat, the glint of her jewelry, the shoes that cost more than many people's monthly wages. But he also saw something else. A woman, genuinely scared and alone. "There's a coffee shop just around the corner," he said, gesturing towards a cozy-looking place. "You can call someone from there." Amelia hesitated. She didn't know these strangers, but options were scarce. Water dripped from her blonde hair, and the biting December cold seeped into her bones. "All right," she mumbled. "Thank you." The coffee shop, the Gilded Lily, smelled of cinnamon and warm chocolate. Mark ordered 3 drinks while his daughter, Lily, observed Amelia with scientific curiosity. "You're rich," the girl stated plainly, as Amelia tried to connect her phone to a borrowed charger. "Lily, don't be rude," Mark gently chided. "It's fine," Amelia said, smiling for the first time in hours. "Yes, I have money, but right now it's not doing me much good." Her phone buzzed to life with a flurry of messages and missed calls. Amelia frowned, seeing her assistant's number. "Sarah," she answered when Sarah finally picked up. "Amelia, thank goodness! Listen, there's a problem." "What kind of problem?" "The building's access codes have been changed, and so have the office ones. I think someone got into our systems." Amelia's coffee grew cold in her hands. Mark and Lily exchanged glances, sensing the shift in her tone. "What do you mean, someone got in?" "The auditors arrived this morning. Money's missing, Amelia. A lot of money. And Sarah's gone." Amelia was silent. Sarah Jenkins had been her personal assistant for 3 years. She knew every code, every password, every detail of Amelia's personal and professional life. "How much?" she asked. Her budget whore, $2 million, maybe more. The phone nearly slipped from her grasp. Mark stepped closer, noticing her pallor. "Are you all right?" "My assistant," Amelia murmured. "She robbed me. And not just money. She has access to everything. That's why I can't get into my flat." Lily walked over and placed a small hand on Amelia's arm. "You don't have anywhere to sleep. I can go to a hotel," Amelia said, but her voice lacked conviction. Even if my cards are blocked, I have cash. But? Mark asked, recognizing the doubt in her tone. But I don't know who to trust. If Sarah could do this, if someone so close to me could betray me like that. She trailed off, staring out the coffee shop window at the wet London streets. For the first time in years, Amelia Vance felt utterly lost. You can stay with us, Mark offered, surprising himself. We have a sofa. I can't ask that of you. You're not asking, Lily interjected. Daddy always says when someone's lost, someone else has to be their lighthouse. Amelia looked at this family of strangers, offering her refuge when her own world was crumbling. In all her years building her empire, she had never needed anyone's help. But now, sitting in a neighborhood coffee shop on Christmas Eve, she realized she had built her defenses so high that she had forgotten how to ask for help. All right, she finally said, just for tonight. Want to know what happens next? Don't forget to leave a comment with your predictions. Chapter 2. Hearts Under Construction. Mark's flat in Islington was a world away from Amelia's penthouse. 2 small bedrooms, a living room filled with architectural drawings, and the lingering scent of coffee and crayons. The walls were covered with sketches of sustainable buildings, mixed with Lily's drawings of volcanoes and science experiments. Lily's room is over there, Mark said, bringing clean sheets. The sofa's comfortable. My wife used to fall asleep there when she worked late on her projects. Your wife? Amelia asked, noticing he'd spoken in the past tense. She passed away 2 years ago, Mark explained, smoothing the sheets carefully. Cancer. That's why we moved here from Manchester. I needed to be close to the hospital. And after, well, Lily was already settled in school. Amelia nodded, recognizing the familiar pain in his voice. She, too, had lost her family, though in a different way. And you? Mark asked. Family. My parents died in an accident when I was 18. Before that, we lost all our money when I was 16. An investment scam in Birmingham. Amelia sat on the sofa. I was completely alone. How did you end up in London? University scholarship. I studied finance at the London School of Economics. I swore I'd never be poor again. That I'd never depend on anyone. Lily appeared in her pajamas, carrying a book about science experiments. Is Amelia having breakfast with us tomorrow? If she wants to, Mark replied, looking at his guest. What do you usually have? Pancakes on weekends, Lily announced proudly. Daddy makes the best, but I help with the batter. Amelia smiled. It had been years since she'd had breakfast with anyone else. I'd love to. The next few days turned into weeks. Amelia waited for the legal case to be resolved, but each call with her lawyers brought more complications. Sarah had not only stolen money, but had sold confidential information to competitors. The investigation would stretch for months, not weeks. Meanwhile, Amelia found herself integrated into the Miller family's routine. She helped Lily with math in the mornings, discussed sustainable architecture with Mark in the afternoons, and made calls to lawyers and auditors at night. I don't understand how someone can betray you like that, she told Mark one evening, as he finished some blueprints. Sarah knew my entire life. She knew what had happened to me as a child, how I'd fought to get where I am. Sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who can hurt us the most, Mark replied, without looking up from his drawings. But not all of us are like that. How can you be so sure? Because if it were true, I would have lost faith a long time ago. When Maria died, many people disappeared, but others appeared. Like you appeared for us? Me? But you helped me. Lily has the best math grades she's ever had, and Mark finally looked at her. It's been a long time since I talked to someone about my projects, about my dreams. Amelia felt something strange in her chest. She had built an empire, but she had no one to share her dreams with. What's your biggest dream? She asked. To open my own sustainable architecture firm, design buildings that are not only beautiful but help the planet. Mark smiled. Sounds silly, right? Not at all. I built a fintech company because I wanted to democratize access to credit in Europe. Maybe it's not so different. January turned into February. Amelia could have returned to her penthouse, but each morning she found a new reason to stay one more day. Mark's pancakes, Lily's experiments, the late-night conversations about architecture and finance. I think I'm getting too used to this, she confessed to Mark one night as they assembled a new desk for Lily. To what? To having a family, to not being alone. Mark stopped screwing and looked directly at her. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. All my adult life I've been independent. I don't need anyone. There's a difference between not needing anyone and not wanting anyone, Mark said softly. One is survival. The other is life. That night, Amelia lay awake on the sofa, thinking about his words. For the first time in years, she felt at home. But 3 days later, everything changed. Amelia? Her lawyer's voice sounded tense over the phone. We need to talk. Urgent. What happened? Sarah didn't just steal money. She sold all our client information to 3 different competitors. They're using our algorithms, our strategies, everything. If we don't act fast, the company could collapse completely. Amelia felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. How serious is it? Very serious. Some of our biggest investors are considering pulling their support. We need a counterattack strategy, and we need it now. How much time do we have? Weeks, maybe less. Amelia hung up the phone and stared at the screen. Mark, who had been working on his blueprints, approached. Bad news? The worst. My company, everything I've built, is in danger. Lily appeared at her bedroom door, still in her pajamas. Amelia? Are you crying? Amelia quickly wiped her eyes. No, sweetie, I'm just worried. Why? Because someone I trusted hurt me very badly, and now I have to decide whether to fight or give up. Lily walked over and climbed onto the sofa next to Amelia. Daddy says when something breaks, you can fix it to make it stronger. Like when my volcano broke and we rebuilt it better. It's not that easy with companies, Lily. But are you going to try? Amelia looked at Mark, who was watching the conversation with a worried expression. Yes, she finally said. I'm going to try. But she knew that trying would mean returning to her old world. It would mean leaving this simple, happy life she had built with Mark and Lily. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Mark and Amelia sat in the small kitchen. What are you going to do? Mark asked. I have to go back to my penthouse. I have to fight for my company. It's all I have. All you have? Mark looked at her with pain. What about us? Amelia felt her voice crack. You are the best thing that's happened to me in years. But my company is my life. If I lose it, I'm nothing. You are Amelia. You are the woman who teaches my daughter math and who argues with me about architecture until 2 a.m. You are the woman who makes Lily laugh and who makes me remember that you can love again. Mark. But I understand, he continued. I understand that you need to fight for what you built. Just don't forget us while you do it. Amelia leaned in and kissed him, memorizing the moment because she knew everything was about to change. I could never forget you, she whispered. But even as she said it, a part of her knew that returning to her old world would mean becoming the woman she had been again. Cold, calculating, and completely alone. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're enjoying this story so far. What do you think Amelia will choose? Leave your predictions in the comments. Chapter 3. Fragile Foundations. 3 months later, in April, Amelia was still at Mark's flat. What had begun as a temporary stay had become a routine that none of the 3 wanted to break. Can you believe it's almost May? Mark asked, making coffee in the small kitchen, while Amelia helped Lily with a science project. Look, Amelia, Lily said, holding up a papier-mâché volcano. If you mix baking soda with vinegar, it explodes. But it's not dangerous, it's chemistry. Like when 2 very different people meet, Amelia joked. Sometimes it explodes, but it can be a good thing. Mark looked at her over his coffee cup, smiling. The routine had settled naturally. Amelia worked from the dining room table, managing her company through video calls and emails. Mark had his makeshift studio in the living room, with blueprints spread everywhere. Lily went back and forth between the two, asking questions about numbers and buildings with equal curiosity. "You know what I like about you?" Mark asked her one afternoon, as they assembled a new bookshelf for Lily's books. "What?" "That you're different from what I thought rich people would be like." Amelia stopped screwing. "Different how?" "In the movies, millionaires never know how to fix a leaky tap or remember that kids need different shoes for PE. Maybe because I wasn't always rich," Amelia admitted. "When we lost everything, I had to learn to do everything. Cook, clean, fix things. My dad used to say that hands that can build never go hungry." "Do you miss Manchester?" "I miss the idea of Manchester, the country it was before everything got complicated for my family." Amelia tightened a screw harder than necessary. "But London gave me a new opportunity. And now? What now? Now I wonder if I built walls so high that I forgot how to let people in." Mark placed his hand over hers. "Walls can be torn down. My wife always said that the heart has its own architecture." That night, after Lily fell asleep, they stayed up talking in the small living room. Amelia had brought a bottle of sparkling cider from her penthouse, and Mark had made cheese toasties. "Can I ask you something personal?" Amelia asked. "Of course. How did you know you wanted to be an architect?" Mark smiled, remembering. "When I was 8, an earthquake damaged my school in Manchester. An architect came to explain how they were going to rebuild it, but better, stronger. He told me that buildings were like people. They could break, but they could always be rebuilt better than they were before." "And your wife? How did you meet her?" "At university. She studied child psychology. She used to say that I built houses for the body, and she built houses for the soul." Mark took a sip of cider. "When she died, I thought my heart would never have room for anyone else again." Amelia felt something stir in her chest. "And now? Now I know that the heart isn't like a house. It doesn't have limited space. It can grow." They looked at each other in silence. Amelia leaned forward, and Mark did the same. Their first kiss was soft, tentative, as if both feared breaking something precious. "Is this okay?" Amelia whispered. "More than okay," Mark replied, pulling her closer. But the happiness was short-lived. The next day, as Amelia checked emails, her phone rang with a call she had been expecting and dreading. "Amelia," it was her lead lawyer, David Green. "We have news, but it's not good." "What happened?" "Sarah didn't just sell client information. She sold the source codes for our artificial intelligence platform. Our competitors are launching products identical to ours. If we don't act immediately, they're going to put us out of business." Amelia felt as if the world was tilting beneath her feet. "How serious is it?" "Very serious. Some of our biggest investors are considering withdrawing their support. We need a counterattack strategy, and we need it now." "How much time do we have?" "Weeks, maybe less." Amelia hung up the phone and stared at the screen. Mark, who had been working on his blueprints, approached. "Bad news?" "The worst. My company, everything I've built, is in danger." Lily appeared at her bedroom door, still in her pajamas. "Amelia? Are you crying?" Amelia quickly wiped her eyes. "No, sweetie, I'm just worried." "Why?" "Because someone I trusted hurt me very badly, and now I have to decide whether to fight or give up." Lily walked over and climbed onto the sofa next to Amelia. "Daddy says when something breaks, you can fix it to make it stronger. Like when my volcano broke and we rebuilt it better. It's not that easy with companies, Lily. But are you going to try?" Amelia looked at Mark, who was watching the conversation with a worried expression. "Yes," she finally said. "I'm going to try." But she knew that trying would mean returning to her old world. It would mean leaving this simple, happy life she had built with Mark and Lily. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Mark and Amelia sat in the small kitchen. "What are you going to do?" Mark asked. "I have to go back to my penthouse. I have to fight for my company. It's all I have." "All you have?" Mark looked at her with pain. "What about us?" Amelia felt her voice crack. You are the best thing that's happened to me in years. But my company is my life. If I lose it, I'm nothing. You are Amelia. You are the woman who teaches my daughter math and who argues with me about architecture until 2 in the morning. You are the woman who makes Lily laugh and who makes me remember that you can love again." "Mark, but I understand," he continued. "I understand that you need to fight for what you built. Just don't forget us while you do it." Amelia leaned in and kissed him, memorizing the moment because she knew everything was about to change. "I could never forget you," she whispered. But even as she said it, a part of her knew that returning to her old world would mean becoming the woman she had been again. Cold, calculating, and completely alone. Subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out. Chapter 5. The price of success. April arrived with a particular cruelty. Amelia had returned to her London penthouse, but the enormous windows that once gave her a sense of power now felt like the walls of a glass prison. "Good morning, Amelia," greeted Oliver Hayes, her new personal assistant, at 6 in the morning. "You have a meeting with the Japanese investors at 8. After that, the call with Singapore, and at 3. Cancel everything after 6, Amelia interrupted, checking her phone as she walked towards the shower. "It's Lily's science fair today." Oliver frowned. "Lily? A young friend. I promised I'd be there. But you have the emergency board meeting at 5. March's numbers were disastrous. If you don't present a recovery plan..." Amelia stopped dead. The past 6 months had been a constant nightmare. Each day brought a new crisis. Clients leaving, competitors using her own strategies against her, nervous investors threatening to withdraw their support. How disastrous. We lost another 12% of the market. 3 major clients canceled their contracts this week. Amelia felt the world wobble. Her company, which had taken 15 years to build, was crumbling in months. "All right," she finally said. "Schedule the meeting, but make it quick. And the science fair? There will be other fairs." But when she hung up the phone, she felt as if she had betrayed something important. The board meeting was brutal. 6 men in expensive suits looked at her as if she were a child who had played with fire and gotten burned. "The numbers don't lie, Amelia," said Robert Sterling, the main investor. "We've lost £30 million in 6 months. It's temporary," Amelia insisted. "We have new technology in development, new markets." "With what money?" interrupted Charles Finch, the financial director. "Our reserves are at historic lows. Then we get more investors. Who's going to invest in a company that's losing market share every month?" Amelia was silent. She had spent so many sleepless nights designing strategies, but every plan seemed to crash against the reality that her competitors had an unfair. "What are our options?" she finally asked. "Sell," Sterling said bluntly. "There are 3 companies interested. We could recover 60% of the investment. And the other option? Bet everything on a revolutionary product, but it would be a huge risk." Amelia looked out the window at the city. From the 40th floor, people looked like ants. She remembered when she felt that small, when she was 18 and had lost everything. "Give me a week," she said. "I'll think about it." But that night, instead of thinking about business strategies, she found herself looking at photos on her phone. Photos of Lily building volcanoes. Photos of Mark smiling as he cooked. Photos of the 3 of them together in the small Islington flat. Her phone rang. It was Mark. "Amelia? Lily wants to talk to you." "Hello, Amelia." Lily's voice sounded small and sad. "Why didn't you come to my science fair?" Amelia closed her eyes, feeling as if a knife had been plunged into her chest. "I'm sorry, sweetie. I had a very important meeting at work." "More important than my volcano?" "No, Lily. Nothing is more important than your volcano." Then why didn't you come? Amelia didn't know what to say. How to explain to a 6-year-old that sometimes adults make stupid decisions out of fear. Can I talk to your dad? He's mad at you, Lily said with brutal honesty. He says you promised, and promises are important. Lily, put your dad on, please. He's washing dishes. He says he doesn't want to talk. The phone cut off. Amelia stared at the black screen, feeling that she had lost something more valuable than any company. The next few days became a whirlwind of meetings, numbers, and impossible decisions. Amelia worked 18 hours a day, sleeping on her office sofa, living on coffee and the determination to save what she had built. When was the last time you ate something that wasn't an energy bar? Oliver asked, finding her asleep at her desk at 5 a.m. What day is it? Friday. Of what week? Oliver looked at her with concern. Amelia, maybe you should... I'm fine, she interrupted, straightening up. Did the reports from Tokyo arrive? Yes, but what? We lost the contract with Tanaka Corp. They went with the competition. Amelia was silent. Tanaka had been her biggest client, the one who had trusted her when no one else did. How much did that contract represent? 40% of our annual revenue. Amelia felt her breath catch. Without Tanaka, her company was not just in trouble, it was dead. Is there any way to get them back? They say the competition offered them exactly the same services, but 20% cheaper. They're using our own algorithms against us. That night, Amelia stayed alone in her penthouse, looking at the illuminated city. She had saved her company from bankruptcy, but at what cost? She hadn't spoken to Mark in 3 weeks. She didn't know how Lily was doing in school. She didn't know if her volcano had worked at the science fair. She had returned to being the woman she was before, successful, solitary, and completely miserable. Her phone rang. For a moment she hoped it was Mark, but it was Oliver. What happened? Robert Sterling called. He wants an urgent meeting tomorrow. What kind of meeting? The kind that determines whether we continue to exist or not. Amelia hung up and poured herself a glass of wine. She had built an empire, but she had forgotten to build a life, and now it seemed she was losing both. What would you do if you were Amelia? Fight for the company or choose happiness? Let us know in the comments below. Chapter for Second Chances. May brought with it a cruel irony. Amelia had saved her company, but she felt emptier than ever. The past 2 months had been a roller coaster of investor meetings, debt restructuring, and the launch of a new platform that had finally put her competitors in check. April's numbers are extraordinary, Oliver announced, entering her office with a smile. We recovered 25% of the lost market. Shares rose 30% this week. Amelia barely looked up from her computer. And Tanaka? They want to meet to discuss a new contract. It seems our new artificial intelligence system impressed them. Schedule the appointment. For when? Whenever. It doesn't matter. Oliver frowned. Amelia, are you all right? We just won the most important battle for the company, and you seem... I seem what? Sad. Amelia finally looked at him. Oliver was right. Her company was flourishing again. Her net worth had increased by 40%, and she felt miserable. I'm fine, she lied. Just to tie. But she wasn't fine. Every night she returned to her empty penthouse and wondered what she was really building. She had recovered her empire, but she had lost her home. That afternoon, as she reviewed contracts in her 40th floor office, something outside the window distracted her. Below, in the London park, she saw families. Fathers pushing children on swings, couples sharing ice cream, grandparents playing chess under the trees. She thought of Lily asking her about volcanoes. She thought of Mark explaining his dreams of sustainable architecture. She thought of the way her heart had felt light for the first time in years. Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. Hello? Amelia? The voice was small, nervous. It's Lily. Amelia's heart stopped. Lily, sweetie, how did you get my number? I memorized it when you lived with us. Dad doesn't know I'm calling you. Is everything all right? Are you okay? Yes, but Amelia, we're leaving. Leaving? What do you mean? To Canada. Dad got a really big job building buildings that don't hurt the earth. He says it's his chance to fulfill his dream. Amelia felt as if the air had been sucked from her lungs. When? In 2 weeks. Dad's really excited, but I don't want to leave without saying goodbye to you. Lily, Amelia, are you crying? A little bit. Can you come say goodbye? I promise I won't tell Dad I called you. He says you're very busy being important. Amelia closed her eyes. Mark had gotten the opportunity of a lifetime, and she had been so busy saving her company that she hadn't realized she was losing something much more valuable. Lily, can I ask you something? Yes. Does your dad seem happy? There was a long pause. He seems happy about the job, but at night he stays awake looking at the photos from when you lived with us, and sometimes I hear him sigh and say your name when he thinks I'm asleep. Amelia felt her heart break into 1,000 pieces. Lily? Yes, I'm going to come say goodbye. But first I need to do something very important. What? I need to remember what truly matters in life. After hanging up, Amelia looked around her office. The walls were covered with awards. Photographs with important politicians and businessmen, framed diplomas. But there wasn't a single personal photo. There was nothing to show who she really was, beyond her professional achievements. She stood up and walked to the window. From there, she could see all of London stretching to the horizon. She had built an empire in this city, but she had forgotten to build a life. Her phone rang again. It was Robert Sterling. Amelia, I have extraordinary news. Goldman Sachs wants to buy us. They're offering £200 million. 200 million? It's 3 times what the company is worth on paper. With your percentage, you'd be left with 120 million after taxes. Amelia was silent. It was more money than she had ever dreamed of having. What's the deal? They want you to stay on as a consultant for 2 years, but after that, you could do whatever you want. Retire, start something new. Or what? Or find what truly makes me happy. Robert laughed. With 120 million pounds, you can buy a lot of happiness. But Amelia knew that wasn't true. The past few months had taught her that happiness couldn't be bought. It was built day by day with the people you loved. Robert, I need to think about it. Think about what? It's the offer of a lifetime. Exactly. It's the offer of my life. And I need to decide what kind of life I want to have. That night, Amelia did something she hadn't done in years. She called an emergency board meeting for the next day. What for? Asked Charles Finch. The company is at its best. To announce my retirement as CEO. There was silence on the other end of the line. Are you crazy? We just received the offer from Goldman Sachs. I know, and I'm going to recommend that you accept it. But I'm going to promote Chloe Davies as the new CEO, and I'm going to stay on as chair of the board, working part-time. Why would you do that? Amelia looked out the window at the city lights. Because I built this company for security. But I forgot that true security comes from the people who love you, not the money you accumulate. The next day, after the most difficult meeting of her career, Amelia drove towards Islington. She hadn't called ahead. She didn't know if Mark would be there, or if he would want to see her. When she arrived at the building, she saw a moving truck outside. Her heart raced. Maybe she was too late. She climbed the stairs 2 at a time and knocked on the door. Mark opened it with a box in his hands and surprise on his face. Amelia! Hi, Mark! They looked at each other in silence for a moment. He looked older, more tired. But his eyes were still the same kind eyes that had helped her that December night. Lily called me, he finally said. I figured. Can I come in? Mark hesitated, but stepped aside. The flat looked strange, half empty. The walls were bare, and labeled boxes were stacked everywhere. Where's Lily? At school, her last day. Mark, You don't have to say anything, he interrupted her. I understand you had to choose your company. I understand that we were what? Temporary. Amelia felt tears threaten to. No, you weren't temporary. You were the real thing. My company, that whole world, that was temporary. Mark put down the box and looked directly at her. What do you mean? That I resigned as CEO this morning. That I sold my shares. That I realized I can have all the money in the world, but if I don't have anyone to share it with, I have nothing. Mark, and that I love you. I love you, and I love Lily, and I don't want you to go to Canada. I want you to stay here, with me. Mark approached slowly. Are you sure? Because Lily and I, we don't do things halfway. If you're in, you're completely in. I'm sure, Amelia whispered. I spent so many years building walls that I forgot how to build bridges. But you taught me that love isn't about protecting yourself. It's about being brave enough to be vulnerable. Mark took her hands. And what about the job in Canada? What about opening your sustainable architecture firm here? I have the capital to invest. I have the connections to get clients. And I have all the desire in the world to build something real with you. Before Mark could respond, the door opened and Lily ran in. Amelia! She shouted, throwing herself into her arms. You came! Of course I came, sweetie. Does this mean we're not going to Canada? Amelia looked at Mark over Lily's head. That depends on your dad. Mark smiled, the first real smile she had seen in months. I think Canada's going to have to wait. We have a family to build here. What a twist. Did you see that coming? Let us know your favorite part so far in the comments. Chapter 6. New Foundations. 6 months later, in November, Amelia woke up in a bed that wasn't hers, but felt more like home than anywhere she had ever lived. Mark's flat was still small, but now there were 3 toothbrushes in the bathroom and photos of the 3 of them together on the walls. Good morning, architect, she murmured, snuggling against Mark. Good morning, partner, he replied, kissing her forehead. Ready for the most important day of our lives? Which one? The grand opening of Miller Vance Sustainable Architecture or our wedding? Both. Lily appeared at the door, already dressed in her best navy blue dress. Can I be the first to arrive at the new office? Please! Of course, sweetie, Amelia said, sitting up in bed. But first, breakfast. The new office was in Islington, just 6 blocks from the flat. It was a small but bright space, with large windows and walls covered with plants. Mark had designed every detail, from the desks made of recycled wood to the vertical garden in the reception. I can't believe it's real, Mark said, standing in the center of the empty space that would become their design studio. Me neither, Amelia admitted. A year ago, my office was 40 stories high and overlooked the entire city. Now, I have a view of the park where children play football, and I like it much more. Don't you miss the power? The important meetings? I miss the feeling of building something, but now I'm building something different, something that matters. Chloe Davies, the new CEO of her former company, had turned out to be brilliant. The sale to Goldman Sachs had been completed in August, and Amelia had used part of her earnings to buy a house in Islington, large enough for the 3 of them, with a studio for Mark and a makeshift laboratory for Lily's experiments. Amelia? Lily appeared with a folder full of drawings. Can I show my project to the clients? What project? I designed a house that cleans the air, like plants, but it's a house. Mark and Amelia exchanged glances. Lily had inherited her father's brilliant mind and Amelia's entrepreneurial determination. At 7, she was already talking about being a scientist-architect-entrepreneur. Of course you can show them, Mark said. In fact, I think you're going to impress our first client. The first client was Eleanor Reed, a real estate developer who wanted to build London's first completely sustainable housing complex. It was exactly the kind of project Mark had dreamed of for years. Ms. Reed, Mark extended his hand when she arrived. I'd like to introduce my partner, Amelia Vance, and our junior innovation consultant, Eleanor laughed when Lily shook her hand with professional seriousness. Pleasure to meet you all. I've heard a lot about you. Really? Amelia asked. My husband worked at Goldman Sachs when they bought your previous company. He says you're one of the most brilliant financial minds he's ever met, and Mr. Miller's designs were recommended to me by the Royal Institute of British Architects. What kind of project do you have in mind? Mark asked. 500 housing units, all with solar energy, rainwater harvesting systems, and green roofs. I want it to be the standard for sustainable urban development in London. Amelia felt the familiar excitement of a big project, but this time it was different. This time it wasn't just about making money. It was about changing the way people lived. Lily, do you want to show your project to Ms. Reed? Amelia suggested. Lily unfolded her drawings with pride. This is a breathing house, she explained. It has special walls that suck pollution from the air and turn it into oxygen, like lungs, but made of concrete. Eleanor studied the drawings carefully. Is this technically possible? It's based on real research, Mark said. There's photocatalytic concrete that can break down pollutants. Lily just took it a step further. I like it. Can we include this in the project? Really? Lily jumped with excitement. I'm going to be the youngest inventor in London! After Eleanor left, the three of them stayed in the office, looking at the signed contracts on the desk. Are we officially architect entrepreneurs? Mark asked. We are officially a family that builds things together, Amelia corrected. And tomorrow we get married? Lily asked. Tomorrow we get married, Amelia confirmed. That night, as Mark finished some blueprints and Lily did her homework, Amelia sat on the small terrace of their new house. She could see the lights of Canary Wharf in the distance, where she had once lived in her glass tower. Her phone rang. It was Chloe Davies. How's the newlywed entrepreneur life going? Chloe asked. We get married tomorrow, but the business life is going well. We just signed our first big contract. Do you regret leaving all this? Amelia looked inside, where Mark was helping Lily with a math project at the dining room table. Not at all. Before, I had a company. Now I have a life. You sound different, more, I don't know, happy. I am happy. For the first time in years, I am completely happy. After hanging up, Amelia went into the house. Mark had finished with the blueprints and was reading a story to Lily on the sofa. What's the story about? Amelia asked, sitting next to them. About a princess who builds castles? Lily said. But not normal castles. Castles that help people. Like us? Amelia asked. Exactly like us, Mark confirmed, putting his arm around her. Castles that build families. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Mark and Amelia stayed up making plans for the next day's wedding. It would be a small ceremony in the garden of the house, with only a few close friends and colleagues. Are you nervous? Mark asked. A little. And you? Me too, but it's a good kind of nervous. How will tomorrow be different? It won't be different, Mark said, taking her hand. We're already family. Tomorrow, we're just going to make it official. Amelia snuggled against him, thinking about the path that had led them there. A rainy night, a door that wouldn't open, and the kindness of strangers who had become her family. Mark. Yes, thank you for picking me up that night. Thank you for letting yourself be picked up. Do you think Maria would have approved of this? Mark was silent for a moment. I think Maria would have loved to see you making volcanoes with Lily. I think she would have said that Lily's heart was big enough for two mums. And yours? My heart learned that love doesn't divide, it multiplies. The next day, as she prepared for the wedding in her new bedroom, Amelia looked at herself in the mirror. She was no longer the cold, calculating woman she had been, but neither was she the scared girl who had lost everything at 18. She was someone new, a woman who had learned that true wealth was measured in shared laughter, dreams built together, and the love of a chosen family. Lily ran in, already dressed in her ceremony dress. Amelia, it's time. Dad's waiting in the garden, and he looks very handsome. Ready to officially be my daughter? I've been ready since you taught me how to make volcanoes. Amelia took Lily's hand, and they walked together towards the garden, where Mark waited for them under an arch of flowers he had designed himself. It was small, simple, and perfect. As they exchanged vows in English, Amelia thought of all the decisions that had led her to that moment. Losing her birth family had led her to find her chosen family. Losing her company had led her to find her true purpose. And being willing to lose her heart had led her to find true love. When Mark kissed her as his wife, Lily shouted with joy and wrapped her arms around them. "Now we're officially the Miller-Vance family," she announced. And for the first time in her life, Amelia Vance Miller knew she was exactly where she belonged. Epilogue. New beginnings. 2 years later, in May, the rooftop garden Mark had designed flourished under the London sun. Amelia adjusted her white dress as she watched the guests dance under the hanging lights that looked like suspended stars. The reception for their second wedding, a larger celebration now that they had had time to plan, had become the perfect party. "Can you believe that 2 years ago we didn't even know each other?" Mark appeared beside her, carrying Lily, who was now 8 years old and had proclaimed herself the director of ceremonies. "2 years ago, I was a completely different woman," Amelia replied, accepting a glass of champagne from a waiter. "A woman who thought that success meant being alone at the top. And now? Now I know that real success is building something together." Miller-Vance. Sustainable architecture had grown faster than they had imagined. In 2 years, they had completed 12 projects, including Eleanor Reed's housing complex, which had won International Green Architecture Awards. Amelia managed the financial and business development side from an office in Islington, while Mark focused on design from a studio they had built on the second floor of their house. "Look!" Lily shouted from Mark's arms. "My experiment worked!" On a table near the dance floor, she had built a special volcano for the wedding. When guests added baking soda, silver and gold lava flowed out, sparkling under the lights. "It's chemistry applied to celebrations," she explained seriously to anyone who would listen. "When my mom, Amelia, and my dad met, it was like chemistry too. Baking soda and vinegar make pretty explosions." Chloe Davies approached, laughing. "This girl is going to revolutionize both science and weddings. How are things at the Empire?" Amelia asked, hugging her former employee, who now ran the company that was once hers. "Goldman Sachs is happy. The numbers are still going up, but we miss your strategic vision." "I have a different strategic vision now," Amelia said, pointing towards Mark, who was dancing with Lily. "It's called long-term happiness." "Do you ever regret it?" Amelia looked around the party. Eleanor Reed was showing photos of the housing complex to other investors. 3 young couples had approached Mark that night to ask him to design their homes. Lily ran between the tables, explaining her science experiments to adults who listened with genuine admiration. "Never," she replied. "Before, I measured my success in millions of pounds. Now, I measure it in smiles per day." "And how are the numbers?" "We're breaking all records." Later, when most of the guests had left, the 3 of them sat in the garden chairs, looking at the lights of London stretching to the horizon. "You know what's the weirdest thing?" Amelia said. "When I lived in Canary Wharf, I could see the whole city from my penthouse, but I felt disconnected from it. Now, from here, I feel like I'm part of something bigger." "Is it because now you're not just observing the city?" Mark said. "You're helping to build it." "And us?" Lily asked. "Are we building something too?" "We're building the most extraordinary family in the world," Amelia replied, hugging the girl. "A family that makes volcanoes, designs buildings that care for the planet, and loves each other very much." "Can I tell you a secret?" Lily whispered. "Of course." Before Amelia came, sometimes Dad cried at night. He thought I was asleep, but I heard him. Now he never cries. He just smiles when he thinks we're not looking. Mark and Amelia looked at each other over Lily's head. "And you?" Mark asked Amelia. "Were you happy before?" "I thought I was happy. but it was like living in black and white. I didn't know all these colors existed until I met you. Lily yawned and snuggled between the two. Tomorrow can we start planning my next experiment? What experiment? Amelia asked. I want to make a house that's also a volcano. Not dangerous, but it can generate energy like real volcanoes. That sounds like the perfect project for Miller Vance Sustainable Architecture, Mark said. Right, partner? Right, partner? As they carried a sleeping Lily to her bedroom, Amelia thought about the path that had led them there. That December night, when she had stood in the rain, feeling lost and betrayed, she never would have imagined that 2 years later, she would be building the life of her dreams with people she didn't even know. What are you thinking about? Mark asked, as they turned off the garden lights. That sometimes the best things in life come when you least expect them. Like us? Like us. They stayed on the rooftop for a moment longer, looking towards the lights of Canary Wharf, where Amelia had once lived. From a distance, the skyscrapers looked beautiful, like jewels sparkling in the darkness. Do you miss anything about that life? Mark asked. I miss the feeling of building something big, but now I know that the greatest things you can build aren't measured in meters or in pounds. They're measured in love, in laughter, in the hands you hold at the end of the day. Mark took her hand, and they walked towards their bedroom. You know what I like most about our story, he said. What? That it started with a door that wouldn't open, and ended with a heart that opened completely. Amelia laughed, remembering that night that had changed everything. Maria was right, she said. When you're lost, someone has to be your lighthouse. And now we are each other's lighthouse. Every project we design, every family we help, have a sustainable home. Every smile from Lily when her experiments work. That night, as she fell asleep in Mark's arms, Amelia reflected on the most important lesson she had learned. That some riches cannot be stolen because they cannot be touched. They are built day by day, in shared conversations, in dreams built together, in the love of a family you choose, and that chooses you back. Outside, London continued to shine, full of millions of stories. But inside that house in Islington, 3 people had found theirs. A story of loss that turned into gain, of walls that turned into bridges, and of a rainy December night that became the first day of the rest of their lives. And as Lily dreamed of volcanoes that generated energy and houses that breathed, Mark of buildings that healed the planet, and Amelia of all the families they would help live better, the 3 rested, knowing that they had built something that would last forever. A home made not of walls and roofs, but of love, trust, and the certainty that the best adventures always begin when you have the courage to open your heart to the unexpected. Love, after all, was the most perfect architecture of all. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to comment below what you learned from Amelia's journey. See you in the next one.